Welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive? Today, we're going to get into something a lot of us probably deal with, and that's that
Okay.
kind of awkward feeling you get when someone gives you something,
Yeah.
like whether it's an actual present or money
Hmm.
or even just a compliment sometimes, and that little voice in your head pops up and says, like, wait, do I actually deserve this?
It is funny because in a way, receiving should be the easy part, right? Someone gives you something, you take it, and
Right.
everybody's happy. But for some reason, so many people have trouble with it.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's almost like we've been taught that it's wrong to receive or that it's selfish somehow,
Yeah.
especially if we feel like we haven't earned it.
Yeah.
And it's weird how such a simple thing can bring up so much inner turmoil.
I think it's a great point, and a lot of that comes from how we were raised and just like societal norms.
Hmm.
We're taught to connect our self-worth to what we achieve and how hard we work. So when someone gives us something without us having to like visibly work for it,
uh
it can trigger this uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah, you're right. It's like our internal alarm bells start going off. Like,
Yeah.
hey, wait a minute. You haven't worked hard enough for this. You don't deserve
It's
this.
exactly. And on top of that, a lot of us have taken in those cultural messages about putting yourself last and being humble. Like, it's better to give than to receive.
Oh, yeah, that whole it's better to give than to receive
Mhm.
thing. Like, we're supposed to put everyone else's needs ahead of our own all the time and be all selfless and humble.
And those qualities aren't bad in themselves. But when they get so ingrained that we feel guilty about getting anything, it starts to block that natural flow of like abundance and connection we could be having in our lives.
Yeah, that really hits home for me. I remember growing up, my parents were always stressing hard work and humility, and it felt almost wrong to accept gifts, especially expensive ones. It's
Hmm.
like I owed the person something big.
It's that fear of having to return the favor, right? It's like now I'm in debt to them.
And all of a sudden, you're not even enjoying the gift anymore. You're stressing about how to pay them back.
Yeah.
It totally ruins the joy of it. And sometimes I think it goes even deeper than that, like it's tied to our own sense of worthiness.
Oh, absolutely. If we have those experiences where we feel criticized or not valued or seen, especially when we're younger, it can make us believe deep down that we just don't deserve good things.
Right.
It's like we absorb those messages and carry them with us.
Yeah. So then it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. We don't feel worthy, so we resist receiving, which just makes us feel even less worthy. It's a terrible cycle.
Yeah, it really is. And it's sad because we all deserve to experience abundance and joy in our lives. It's not something we have to earn, it's our right.
Okay, so we've kind of dug into some of the root causes of this guilt and shame around receiving. But how do we actually break free from this? How do we shift our thinking to see receiving not as some burden, but as this beautiful act of connection and mutual growth?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. It's about changing our perspective and realizing that receiving isn't selfish. It's actually a gift to the giver.
Wait, a gift to the giver. How does that work?
Think about it. When someone gives you something, they're showing their love, appreciation, or generosity. When you accept it fully and genuinely, without any guilt or holding back,
Mm-hmm.
you're honoring their intentions and letting them experience the joy of giving.
Wow. I never looked at it that way before.
Yeah.
It's like we're completing the circle and letting that energy of giving and receiving flow freely between us.
Exactly. It's all about recognizing that both giving and receiving are important parts of a healthy exchange. And, this idea of seeing receiving as a gift connects really well with this concept of spiritual dating.
Hold on now, spiritual dating. I thought we were talking about getting gifts, not romantic relationships.
We are. But basically, spiritual dating means approaching all your relationships, not just romantic ones, as chances for you to grow and learn more about yourself. It's like seeing every interaction as a chance to become a better version of yourself.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. How does that tie into our talk about receiving?
Well, if you look at receiving through that lens of spiritual dating, you start to see it as a chance to heal those old patterns of feeling unworthy and to practice opening yourself up to all the abundance that's out there.
It's like every time we receive something, we're choosing to step into a bigger version of ourselves, one where we believe we deserve love, support, and appreciation.
Exactly. It's a powerful shift. It's about realizing that receiving isn't just taking, it's about letting yourself be filled up so you can then give back to the world from a place of fullness and abundance.
So it's not just about the stuff we receive, but also the love, support, connection, all those things that feed our souls.
Yes. And when we open ourselves up to receiving, we're really saying yes to life itself, to all the amazing things it offers.
I love that. It's about ditching that scarcity mindset
Yeah.
and adopting one of abundance where We know there's enough for everyone and we deserve to get our share.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about how receiving, especially without feeling guilty, can be a real struggle. But like you said, it's all about shifting from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance.
Right.
So where do we even start to make that change?
It's funny because you think learning to receive should be simple,
Yeah.
right? Someone offers you something nice, you say thank you, and you're done.
Right.
But it's rarely that straightforward, is it?
No, not at all. There's a lot of conditioning we need to unravel. But the good news is there are some practical things we can do to transform those patterns that hold us back.
Okay, I'm listening. What kind of tools are we talking about?
Well, one of the most powerful tools is gratitude. When we change our focus from what we're lacking to what we already have, even if they're small things, it can totally change how we see things.
So instead of getting stuck on that feeling of, I don't deserve this, we can practice being thankful for the gift and the thought behind it.
Yes, it's about recognizing the giver's generosity and realizing how their gift impacts your life. Even if it's something small, like a compliment or someone lending a hand, taking a moment to show gratitude can make a huge difference.
It's like that saying, what you focus on grows. The more we practice gratitude, the more we attract things to be grateful for.
Mm.
It creates this upward spiral.
Exactly. And another powerful tool is self-compassion. Instead of beating ourselves up for feeling guilty or unworthy, we can be kind and understanding towards those
I think
feelings.
that's really important. We're often so hard on ourselves, especially when it comes to receiving.
Right.
We need to treat ourselves with the same kindness and generosity that we would offer to others.
Absolutely. And that means acknowledging those feelings of guilt and shame without judging them. They're simply signs pointing to deeper beliefs that need to be explored.
So instead of trying to ignore or suppress those feelings, we can say, okay, I hear you. What are you trying to tell me? What old beliefs am I still holding on to?
That's a fantastic approach. And once you've identified those beliefs, you can start challenging them. For example, if you find yourself thinking, I didn't earn this, I don't deserve it, you can try reframing it to, I am worthy of receiving this. It reflects the positive impact I have on others.
That's such a powerful reframe. It's about moving away from a sense of lack and towards a sense of worthiness. And I love how it highlights the two-way nature of giving and receiving. Like even if we haven't specifically earned something, we've probably contributed something positive to the relationship or the world that led to that generosity.
Exactly. It's recognizing that we're all interconnected and that every act of giving and receiving adds to a greater web of abundance.
So gratitude and self-compassion are key. What else can we do to get rid of the guilt and fully embrace receiving?
Affirmations are a fantastic way to reprogram our subconscious mind. By repeating positive statements about our worthiness and ability to receive, we can start to change those old limiting beliefs.
I've heard about affirmations, but I've always been a bit skeptical. Do they actually work?
Oh, they absolutely can. It's all about consistency and repetition. The more we expose our minds to positive messages, the more likely they are to stick.
So it's like building new pathways in our brains, replacing those old tapes of I'm not good enough with messages of self-love and acceptance.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be complicated. You can just jot down a few affirmations that resonate with you and repeat them to yourself during the day.
Like, I am worthy of receiving abundance in all its forms, or I am open to receiving love, joy, and support.
Hmm.
Something like that.
Perfect. The key is to pick affirmations that feel genuine to you and that create a positive feeling.
You know, one of the things I personally struggle with is accepting compliments. It's like my automatic response is to brush them off or downplay them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this old thing. Or it was nothing, really.
That's a very common reaction, and it goes back to those deep-seated beliefs about not being worthy. But here's a challenge for you. Next time someone compliments you, try just saying thank you and accepting it gracefully.
Just thank you. No self-deprecating jokes or explanations.
Exactly. It might feel a bit weird at first,
Yeah.
but with practice, it'll become more natural. And each time you do it, you're reinforcing that belief that you are worthy of being acknowledged and appreciated.
I like that. It's a small but powerful way to shift those old patterns. Are there any other small steps we can take to build up our receiving muscles, so to speak?
Absolutely. Another great practice is to consciously make an effort to become more receptive in everyday situations.
What do you mean by that?
Well, think about all the little ways people offer help and kindness throughout your day. Someone holds a door open for you, a friend offers to help with a project, a stranger gives you directions.
I guess I don't always notice those small things. I'm usually so busy rushing around.
I understand. But when you make a conscious effort, to notice and appreciate those little acts of kindness and to accept them gracefully, you're expanding your capacity for receiving on a bigger scale. It's
Yeah.
like you're telling the universe, I'm open to receiving good things, whether they're big or small.
So it's about being present and mindful of those everyday connections and seeing them as chances to practice receiving without resisting.
Exactly. And over time, as we cultivate this attitude of gratitude, self compassion, and openness to receiving, we'll see those old feelings of guilt and shame start to fade away. And what's even more amazing is that as we heal our own relationship with receiving, we create a ripple effect that inspires others to do the same.
It's like we're breaking free from those limiting beliefs and creating a more abundant and fulfilling reality for ourselves and everyone around us.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And sometimes it helps to see these ideas in action. We have a great example in the source material about a friend who received $555 from her partner as a thank
Hey,
gift.
tell me about this. I have a feeling this is something our listeners can relate to. Was she thrilled about this generous gift, or was it more complicated than that?
Well, it was more complicated. Let's just say she wasn't doing cartwheels over it.
So what happened? Give us the details.
So, like I said, her partner gave her this $555 as a way of saying thank you for all her support when he was going through a rough patch. He'd just landed a new job that paid well, and that number reflected his new salary. He wanted to acknowledge her part in his success.
Ah, that's really thoughtful of him. But I'm guessing things didn't go exactly as planned.
Not quite. Instead of feeling happy and grateful, she was overwhelmed by guilt and shame. She started questioning her worthiness, saying she didn't deserve it and that she hadn't done anything special.
Oh man, I totally get that. I can see myself having the same reaction. It's like that inner critic jumps out and starts listing all the reasons why we're not good enough, especially when money's involved.
It's a pretty common response, but it doesn't have to be. This is where those tools we discussed earlier, gratitude, self-compassion, and reframing can really make a difference.
So how could she have handled this differently? What would a more empowered response have looked like?
Well, the first step is to acknowledge those feelings of guilt and shame without judging them. It's okay to feel them. They're just signs that something needs to be addressed.
So instead of trying to ignore them or pretend they're not there, she could say to herself, hey, I'm feeling guilty about receiving this money. What's causing this? What's really going on here?
Exactly. And then she can start exploring those deeper beliefs. Maybe she was brought up to think that women shouldn't depend on men financially, or that accepting money is a sign of weakness.
Or maybe, like we talked about earlier, she has some deep-seated beliefs about not being worthy or deserving of good things.
It could be a whole range of things. The important thing is to bring those beliefs out into the open and start challenging them.
So instead of saying, I didn't earn this, I don't deserve it,
Yeah.
she could reframe it to something like, my partner values what I bring to the relationship, and he wants to show his appreciation. It's okay for me to receive this gift.
Exactly. It's about shifting that narrative from scarcity to abundance, from self-doubt to self-worth.
And what about that feeling of being indebted? How do you get rid of that I owe him something mindset?
Well, in this case, her partner wasn't expecting a tit-for-tat exchange. He was simply expressing his gratitude and acknowledging her role in his journey.
So it's more about understanding that it's a gesture of love and appreciation, not a business deal.
Precisely. And it's about trusting that she can show her appreciation in her own way and her own time without feeling obligated or pressured.
You know what I really love about this whole idea of receiving is that it goes beyond just material things. It's about being open to all the good that life has to offer: love, support, kindness, joy, all of it.
That's a beautiful point. And it's about recognizing that we all deserve to receive those things just because we're here.
So it's not about earning our worthiness. It's about embracing it as something we're born with.
Exactly. And when we do that, we unlock so many possibilities.
This is so empowering. So for our listeners who are ready to ditch the guilt and step into a more abundant life, what's the one key takeaway you want them to remember?
You are worthy of receiving all the good that life has to offer. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to prove yourself. Just allow yourself to receive it with grace and gratitude.
That's a beautiful message. And I think it's a perfect way to wrap up our deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. This has been incredibly enlightening.
My pleasure. Remember, receiving isn't selfish. It's sacred. Embrace it.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring your relationship with receiving. What's one small step you can take today to practice receiving with more ease and joy? Until next time, keep diving deep and keep embracing the abundance that surrounds you.